You may be seated. My name is Andrew McCourt, and I'm one of the senior pastors here at Bayside Church. I want to take a moment to welcome you here and thank you for taking the time to come to this very, very special occasion to welcome a real hero. We use the word hero today in many circumstances, in sports, sometimes in media, but I believe today we're finding out the true meaning of the word hero. And I want to welcome all of the family, and I want to thank everybody who've come from near, and also those that have traveled right across from the United States of America. At this point, I'm going to welcome to the stage Senior Chaplain Betsy Vanderpool.
Good morning. Thank you so much for being here to honor Deputy Brian Ishmael. It is my honor to lead the chaplain team that serves El Dorado County Sheriff's, Placerville PD, City of Folsom PD. Would you join me in prayer? Almighty God, we're here today to honor our brother, Brian Ishmael, and our hearts are grieved. We take comfort in your words that promise you are close to the brokenhearted and save those who are crushed in spirit. But we mourn and lament our loss. God, Ish was a man of courage and action. He was also funny and kind, with a goofy grin, quick to poke fun, and quick also to stand with those who hurt. His big heart, as well as his big shoes, will be missed. God, we ask that you walk closely with his family, blue and blood, throughout the coming days. Bring laughter and good memories to mind as we grieve and mourn. May the tears that honor Ish by reflecting the love we have for him cleanse our hearts and wash away our pain. God, David wrote in Psalm 144, "Praise be to the Lord my rock, who trains my hands for war, my fingers for battle. He is my loving God and my fortress, my stronghold and my deliverer, my shield in whom I take refuge, who subdues peoples under me. Lord, what are human beings that you care for them? Mere mortals that you think of them. They are like a breath. Their days are a fleeting shadow. Part your heavens, Lord, and come down. Touch the mountains that they smoke. Send forth lightning and scatter the enemy. Shoot your arrows down and rout them. Reach down your hand from on high. Deliver me and rescue me from the mighty waters, from the hands of peoples whose mouths are full of lies, whose right hands are deceitful. God, we thank you that you care for us. You know each day we live, and you capture each tear we shed. We ask that you reach down your hand, touch us, touch Ish's family. May you be our shield and fortress in the coming days. Bring comfort and hope when we feel like there is none. Bring sense to things that don't seem to make sense, and scatter those who wish harm. Bring justice for Ish. Rescue us from things that seem hopeless, and bring your light and love to those who need you. Be close to Ish's family and protect all our first responders and those who serve. In your strong and mighty name we pray, amen. At this time, I would like to welcome Under Sheriff Randy Pichon to the stage.
Welcome. Today we come together to honor Deputy Brian Ishmael. During the last 2 weeks, the Sheriff's Office and the Ishmael family have received an outpouring of support from our community and agencies from across the country. On behalf of the Sheriff's Office and the Ishmael family, we offer our thanks and recognition for all your efforts and welcome you here today. Brian would be amazed with us coming together in his memory. Every day he would be at work with his huge grin. And I think we're going to hear more about that smile later. Every day he would be at work, telling us how great things were going. Brian David Ishmael, born December 12, 1981, attended Charles Brown Elementary, Herbert Green Middle School, and in 2000 graduated from Ponderosa High School. During high school, Brian was employed at Missouri Flat Pet Clinic and Mike Cann's Body Shop. He was the manager at Pizza Plus and a machine operator at Cook's Cabinets. Brian attended Universal Technical Institute in Houston, Texas, while working for Fred Haas Toyota and at CarMax. Brian returned to El Dorado County, where he worked as an auto body technician at G&O Auto, then Holden Auto Body, which became Fulmer's Auto Body. Brian put himself through the Los Rios Police Academy, graduating in 2012. In 2013, Brian was sworn in as a Placerville police officer, where he worked for 2 years. During this time, Brian served as a school resource officer at El Dorado High School. He was well liked by the students and teachers and was friends with everyone. Brian also served as a field training officer and assistant armorer while with the Placerville Police Department. In October of 2015, Brian came to the El Dorado County Sheriff's Office, where in addition to his patrol duties, he served as an armorer, maintaining our weapons. Brian was enthusiastic in his duties with the high attention to detail required of an armorer. At the beginning of this year, Brian was appointed as a field training officer, a role he excelled at. Brian touched the lives of our new employees. Whenever I asked Brian how a trainee was performing, he would just give me the big smile and reply, "They're doing just great." Everyone Brian trained will now bring that knowledge and values that he gave them forward in their careers. Brian has always been described as a hard worker, a quality employee, a positive role model, and a leader. Today we are joined by Brian's wife Katie, his 3 children, Prudence, Zoe, and Cash, parents Don and Kimberly, his sister Brenda with her husband CJ. We are here to celebrate the life Brian lived, his commitment to family, service to community, and we're here to smile as we remember Brian. Thank you.
I'm now going to welcome to the stage Wes Kahutek, and he's going to bring a tribute. Thank you.
I wrote down some things, but first off, I wanted to just personally, and I know Dawn's going to come up and speak, but I just, seeing everybody here in uniforms, it's absolutely an amazing thing. It's just, I wish it was under better circumstances, but Brian, I know, would absolutely love this. It's just mind-blowing. I know there have been a lot of people talking about Deputy Ishmael, and there's no doubt that he was a good cop and he loved his job. I wanted this opportunity to tell you about Ish, the man I knew, so that everybody truly understands what was stolen from us that day. Brian was a dedicated father who loved his children with every fiber of his being every second of the day. He was a devoted husband who cherished his wife. He was a man who loved his parents, who taught him how to be the man that he was. He was a brother who adored his sister and always took joy in her happiness. He was the kind of man that other men look up to, and he was a friend. I was lucky enough to be one of Ish's friends. Ish had a lot of friends, and if you were lucky enough to be one of those, you knew what it was like to have a true friend. Ish knew the true meaning of friendship, and I think people as a whole misuse that word and in so demean its value. A true friend is someone that loves and accepts you for who you are, someone that is there for you even when you didn't know that you needed them, and someone that you can lean on when times are tough, but will teach you to hold yourself up again. Ish was all those things and more. He was a man that loved life and had the best sense of humor you could ask for in a friend. You could not be around Ish and not be in a good mood. His positivity was infectious to even the most calloused of people. Ish had a level of self-confidence that I was always envious of. He didn't care what other people thought of him. He treated everyone with kindness, and he loved his family and friends with everything that he was. Ish helped to teach me to live in the moment and to be able to laugh at myself, to look at things in a positive light. He helped me to learn not to be so hard on myself, not to care what other people thought of me, and not to carry around anger. He was a force. He was a good man and truly a great person. I know you hear people say about that about other people all the time that have passed on. It's just something nice to say, but Brian Ishmael was definitely one of those people. When people heard what happened to Brian and found out that I was close to him, they would say how sorry they were for my loss. And what I realized and began telling those people is Ish was everybody's loss, but I was just lucky enough to know what I lost. That day I lost a friend and a brother, but the world lost much more than that. I believe if everyone had an Ish in their lives, this would just be a much better place to be. I will always remember Ish and do my absolute best to pass on the lessons I learned from him to my children and everyone else I meet along the way. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And now I'm going to ask to come to the stage John Whitfield, and he's also going to bring a tribute. Thank you, John.
So I'm going to give you a little ground rules here. In the 6th grade, I was playing basketball, and I got clotheslined by a defender, and it caused me to have a serious concussion, where I spent 24 hours in the emergency room throwing up, and the defender was Brian Ishmael. So if this speech is a little discombobulated, we can all blame Brian. Many of you here know that Brian was a serviceman, and it really makes sense when I look back at before he joined the force. When we were in high school, sometimes I couldn't afford a Friday night date or a movie because my paycheck hadn't come in yet, and I turned to the bank of Ish, I called it, who always fronted the money without charging interest, and that's the kind of guy he was. When I couldn't afford to get new brakes on my car, he offered to put them on and show me how, because that's the kind of guy he was. Or the time I lost my keys on an inverted ride at Great America, and my dad had to come in the middle of the night to give us a spare key. The only thing that kept a young 16-year-old awake on the drive home at 2 a.m. was that foghorn of a nose that Brian had. He even helped me when he was asleep. When my wife backed my new car into the garage, she called Brian in a panic, and he had it fixed before I even got home from a business trip. That's the kind of guy he was. Or the time we made him shave off his horrendous goatee for our wedding, and he walked around self-conscious because he felt naked without it, but that's the kind of guy he was. I know this sounds like I'm a high-maintenance friend, and I probably am, but I did pay him back a couple of times. When he was applying for Placerville PD, he called me up and said, "Johnny, I want you to be a reference." And I said, "Sure." And he goes, "Johnny, I need you to know that I told him everything we did when we were younger." And I said, "You told him everything?" Like when the time with the car thing and the other time with the fireworks? And he said, "Yeah, I told him everything." So I lawyered up and gave him a great reference. And he continued his life of service. Thank you to Dawn and Kim and Brenda. Thank you so much for Brian. He was one of the best parts of my life, We shared so many great times together. We never had that awkward hug handshake thing because with Brian, you always knew you were just gonna get a big smile and a bear hug. And I know he learned that from you. He had one of the best work ethics I've ever seen. No matter what the job was, he never complained. He would always roll up his sleeves, jump right in to help. You raised a great one, and I'm so lucky to have been friends with him for so long. Katie Bug. Dear Katie, I clearly remember the early days when you and Brian met and how much joy you brought into Brian's life. He was the guy's guy, and you're the flower girl. Such an amazing connection was born, and he was always happy to have you as his wife. I will never forget the smiles and laughter that filled the room with you two, and please don't let this dim your amazing light. Thank you to Wes for keeping our group together for so long. You have been the glue of an amazing brotherhood. Sheriff DiAugustini, I know you're hoping that this day would never come to your department. I have to say that I'm in admiration of the leadership you have provided to the department and to our community. Brian loved working for you, and now I know why. Doug Thompson and the Leo family, Brian was so proud to be one of your brothers. I can't thank you all enough for stepping up in this time of pain. You are truly remarkable, and we appreciate all that you do to keep us safe. In times like these, I wonder, with everything going on in the world, are we headed in the right direction? All I can say is that we're a couple El Dorado County boys born and raised, and the way our community has responded is beyond what I could have imagined. Brian has long been my hero, and now you can all see what I've known for my entire life, that he is your hero too. I love you, brother.
Thank you, John, for those beautiful words. And now Ben Schultz is going to come and he's going to give a tribute as well. Thank you.
Good morning. First, I want to introduce you guys to Ish's patrol team, Team 3. Sergeant Sori, Deputy Fulton, Deputy Gillespie, Deputy Shelton, Deputy Trolley, Deputy Hadges, Deputy Domer, Deputy Madarian, Deputy Clark, Deputy Ferguson, Deputy Albino, and myself, Ben Schultz. This is his shift. This was his home away from home, immediate family. Obviously in law enforcement, we're all one big family. But this was immediate for him. I want to go back to when I first met Ishmael, which was about 6 years ago. We both were working at Placerville PD. He had started, I'd been there for a little bit. About 2 years later, I made the move to come over to the sheriff's office, and he followed 2 months later. We began our friendship with the PD. It got only stronger over the years. We had what we call our Tahoe time together. We spent 6 months living together and traveling together and working together. I saw him more than I saw my own wife. I started calling him Babe because it seemed natural. And he called me Babe as well, so it was pretty good. When you're with someone that long, you learn their bad habits. I know I have my own bad habits, but he had the snoring, as was mentioned earlier. And at one point, we were sleeping in the same room, not the same bed, but just the same room. He snored. He liked to suck on his teeth. He tapped his foot. He had some funky bad habits that I am going to miss. As a deputy and a patrol officer, He was the perfect cop. He had integrity. He was reliable. He was fearless. He was a warrior. As a friend, he was the same thing. He was a perfect friend. Every time you saw him, his big smile. He brightened up the room. If you had a bad day, you couldn't have a bad day around him. He wouldn't let you do that. He was trustworthy, a confidant, true confidant. I knew if I told him something, it was locked up. He wasn't going to tell anybody else. And that's a hard quality. At the office, we developed a group of 4 of us. It was Deputy Harris, Deputy Trolley, and myself and Ish. We'd go on some guys' camping trips. And those were our times to not have any wives, any kids, any parents, anybody around. And we'd just sit around the campfire. We'd go fishing, play games. We had to divvy up the teams. And we divvied them up with Ish and I on the same team because we came from the PD. And then Harris and Trolley both were in corrections, so that's how we divvied the teams up. Plus, we were the older guys. And trying to keep up with 2 younger guys in like college-type games is not easy, but we held our own. One year we were camping. I had to leave early to go back to the house because my dog had passed away. Came back up that day, and I was sitting out by the fire at the campsite, and Ish was there with me. And he shed a tear for my dog. It's a friend, because he knew it affected me and it affected him. Great guy. My daughter ran into a wall in her car, knocked the front end off a little bit. He was working, so I'm like, who am I going to call? I'm going to call Ish, right? He's a body guy. He showed up on duty, crawled underneath my daughter's car and fixed it so he could get it down the road. Again, that's the kind of guy he was, right? So Tuesday night, it was Ish's late night, and we had uniform inspections. So he had brought his vest home and washed it, and it's an exterior patrol vest. He was trying to get it on in the locker room. I just happened to be in there with Deputy Cooney talking. And he's like, hey, Benji, come on over here. I need you to help me get in my vest. I was like, why? He goes, well, it's too small. I'm like, well, how's it too small? He goes, well, I washed it. I said, well, it shouldn't shrink that much. I said, you must have gotten fatter over the weekend or something. So there I am, loosening the strings on the back to get him to fit into it. Deputy Cooney, and everybody here that works for the SO knows Deputy Cooney is not a small or weak fella. Cooney's on the front trying to pull it together, him in the back trying to pull it apart, tell him to suck his gut in, and we got him in it. Those are the stories, just some of the stories and some of the things I can say about Ish. He's going to be missed by more than just the LEO family and his family. The community of El Dorado is going to miss him, his impact. We're all going to have to move forward in a new normal. But we will move forward in his honor with integrity and in law enforcement as warriors with a smile on our face. Thank you.
I've been a pastor now for 26, 27 years, and these things never get easier. They just never get easier. And on Friday, I went out to visit some of the family for the first time, not just wanting to turn up on this day, not knowing anybody. And I headed out way into the country, everybody, way into the country. I mean, maps was like laughing at me. We were just going into uncharted territory. I felt I was nearing the moon at that point. But what really jumped out at me was these blue ribbons all the way. It was incredible. Maps didn't know where it was going, but I knew where I was going because of the blue ribbons. And they led to a very, very special house, the house of Dawn and Kim. And we had, my wife and I, an amazing time with some amazing people. And Don's going to come now, and he's going to bring a father's tribute. And I'm going to stand with you. So you just come on up now, my friend.
Good morning, everyone. My gosh, there's a lot of you out there. Thank you, sir. Thank you. We, Kim and I, appreciate all of you being here to honor our son. I'm here to tell you about Brian, and not so much Deputy Ishmael, but about Brian himself. He was one of those perfect sons, would do anything I asked him to, which was a lot, especially as I got older, because I can't climb underneath houses and all that type of stuff. I've just got a few things here on the list to read. We'll start with this one. I hope lunch is coming too. But people have loved B, which we call him B. It was easier. But from the first time they met, they loved him. He's a big, lovable guy, as you can tell by the picture. The smile was continual, and a helper of anyone. He would pull over on the side of the road just because somebody was having a flat tire. He wasn't on patrol. He'd just do it. I've seen, he speaks softly, which I've seen, but a person, I've seen him walk up to a person, and I'm sorry, not a person, someone that was in trouble. And in trouble of that he had to be there in uniform. But he went up to them. This was on a ride-along. And he would just talk softly to him. And this person that was raging mad in approximately 2 minutes was crying and saying, "I'm sorry." And this is the way, he didn't speak loud to people. This is why his kids are perfect. They really are. And we enjoyed being with them. But he's always spoke softly, but he does it with authority. I'll give you one real quick one. Kim and I were going to go to Hawaii. And I wanted to go ziplining. And Kim is not too hot about being off the ground more than a foot. So I told him, we're going to go to Hawaii, and I'm going to go ziplining. I'm not too sure about Mom. And he was just going in to be an officer, and he goes to his mom, he stood about this much higher, and he would go, "Mom, you're going to ziplining." And I was standing right next to him, and both Kim and I looked at each other, and he goes, "Not working, huh?" "No, we know you well. Way too well." Ben brought up a thing. Oh, God, Ben. He told me, Brian had his vest custom made, all the little pockets and all that, and right there is where his inhaler was. And when they would go out on a call, Ben would say, "You ready to go? Or are you ready to go tactical?" And Brian would just go, "Okay, let's go." Some of the stories I got from that boy, geez, they were funny. There was one girl, I was with him. She went through a stop sign. He said, "Do you want to go write tickets?" I said, yeah, let's go do that. We're in the middle of the night. And he says, "Well, this car that just kind of California stopped and went through," he goes, "I don't even bother. You know, this person's going to want to go to court and all this stuff, and they're going to say, oh, yeah, okay." But right after that girl, this other girl in a little car drives through that stop sign, and about 100 feet more, there's another stop sign. He goes, "That's the one we're going after." So we take off. He says, "You can come on up, Dad, with me." So we come up to her, and he looks down at her, and this sweet little girl, Brian says, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" And she goes, "Well, because I didn't have my seatbelt on." or that I was on my telephone. I had to turn around and just go back to the car. I was laughing so hard, but I heard him say, well, I didn't see you on the phone, but I definitely see you don't have your seatbelt on. But this is the way he treated people. He treated them like real people. You're not criminals, especially one like this. She was very, very, very nice girl. One thing, I know you've heard everybody calling him Ish. Let me give you a quick background. My grandfather was a fire chief of the Tiburon Fire Department. Well, figure I'm 60-something, and my dad was, anyway, is way back. And that Ish started with my grandfather. His name as a fire chief was Fire Chief Ish. My dad's nickname was Ish. My name was Ish, and now Brian is Ish. And we didn't pass it on. That's just the direction they went. His buddies started calling him Ish, and I'll never forget the one time I saw him on TV, and there was a situation where everybody's got their rifles out, and Doug yells out, "Hey, Ish, go around the other way." And I'm going, wow, it's on with Brian too. And that part, it was so good. One of the cards I got last week, and we have gotten a lot of cards, but this one particular one was a person that did know Brian when he was younger. And I'm just going to read you a quick little thing here. It says, Don and Kim and Brenda, Brian responded to a call for service for me last year. It's the first time I've seen Brian since he was just a boy. He had grown into a man and an officer at that. I'll back that up. What's he called? Deputy. I'm getting corrected all the time. He had grown into a man and an officer. He was professional yet personable. He was caring, easy to talk to, and followed through with everything he said he was going to do. I was so impressed with the man, the deputy he turned out to be. And that's just one of many, many cards that we got from people we don't even know. And it's incredible. This is incredible. He would be overjoyed, and he would be proud of every one of you just coming to see him. He'll be missed by a lot of friends, family, fellow deputies, and the public. The bad guys took one of our best, and this has got to stop. I love you all, and little buddy, I know you're throwing that ball again for Noe, which was his dog. Have fun, B, and we'll see you again. Thank you.
He did real good there, didn't he? When he brought out those notes, I thought it was one of my sermons. Actually, I'm feeling job insecurity. I don't know. You could be the preacher around here soon. That was a great, great message. Well, after we visited Dawn and Kim, we went like deeper into the country. And again, we followed the blue line, the blue ribbons. It was a very special moment as we headed out to meet Katie. And we came upon this beautiful property in a wonderful location. And my thought is, heaven better be good, God, because that was like a little bit of heaven just sitting there. She was sitting on the front porch with Sheriff and his wife. And it was just a special moment getting to meet her, hear the children playing in the background, and just that idyllic setting. Yes, we encountered grief, but we also encountered a wonderful woman in Katie. And Katie has asked me to read her tribute today. To most, you were a friend, a brother and a son. But to me, you were everything. You've always been one of the best people I have ever known. And I would not be who I am today without you. As if that wasn't enough, you gave me the 3 most amazing children. I'm not sure I will ever be whole again, but I promise you that these children will know all there is to know about their daddy and the man he was to all of us. I will remind them that that love can be found at 14 years old, because I am living proof. Thank you so much, Katie, for those remarkable words. I'm going to bring you just short words myself. I'm going to call this a message of hope. Jesus himself, when he was on earth, he went to a memorial service for a dear friend, a guy called Lazarus. And it was like Jesus hijacked the moment. And he said this. He said, I am the resurrection and the life. And the one who believes in me will live even though they die. And whoever lives by believing in me will never die. Let me just talk just for a brief moment about heart-filled lives. As I said, when I went to Dawn and Kim's home, they brought us out into the backyard, and he was just overlooking the local countryside there, and we had water. We were just relaxing. They were telling us stories, and Kim just pointed over to the rocks, the mound of rocks. She said, "That's where Brian used to play over there. And you know what? There's rattlesnakes around here, but he was never ever scared of those rattlesnakes. He would just keep on playing. Even at a young age, he had a big heart." They talked about Sister Brenda and how close they were together and how they just played so much in that local area. He was already displaying a family heart. And then we looked over and we saw this huge moose. Now, I don't mean a real moose, everybody. I'm talking like a huge moose that has been cut out of steel and it's standing up in the backyard. And you'll always remember Brian every time you look out and you see that wonderful moose, Kim. He had a generous, generous heart. As I said, we headed over to Katie's house. You're meeting a new person in sad circumstances. And I never had the privilege of meeting Brian, but definitely Katie, through your eyes and through your heart, I felt like I was touching something of Brian's heart. The Ishmaels, they have heart-filled lives. And Brian was all heart. And looking at the little lake where he took Cash and was teaching him, learning how to fish, he definitely displayed a father's heart. And right up to the very end, in his job on that night, he displayed a brave heart, a hero, as we mentioned earlier on. Life has a tendency, my friends, to either shrink our hearts or to grow our hearts. And I know for this family, it will be a moment when no hearts are shrunk, but actually hearts will grow. We talk about heart-filled lives, but the reality is as well, we often live with hurt-filled lives. We want to try and keep that out, but it's not possible. If the accent has thrown you at all, this is an Irish accent, everybody, and you need to pay careful attention to this, because this is how you're going to talk in heaven, everybody. This is what it's going to be like, all right? I often say half the world is Irish and the other half wannabe. I was born in the north of Ireland. I was born into a time of trouble and conflict and division in our nation. I was only a child at the time, but I could feel it. I could sense it. I could certainly sense it in our home. My father was a serving police officer. He had returned from the Royal Marines and came for a quieter life, felt that Belfast would be a good place. Little did he know, yes, that the conflict would just happened just shortly after the time that he became a serving police officer. And I can still remember the day, and I shared it with the family, that when I was walking home from school with my brother, and We were taken into a neighbor's house, which was unusual because we didn't understand at that moment that my father had also been shot in the line of duty, and he was fighting for his life. And I still remember that night when Mom came home, and Mom was trying to explain to her 3 children just what had happened. And I got to say this here, that Katie, you have been absolutely incredible. You have been wonderful. No one needs you to be perfect. Don't try to be perfect. You may feel broken. You'll be broken for a long time. But I want to tell you this, you have been amazing. You see, Jesus stood at that grave of Lazarus, and he didn't stand there as a cold observer. He entered into this world, the world where there is pain, in the world where there is hurt. And I love the shortest verse in the whole Bible, everybody, is John 11:35, and it simply says, Jesus wept. And I love this. I love the victorious Jesus. I love the miracle-working Jesus. I love the Jesus who started the very first Happy Meal, and he fed 5,000 people. I love that. But I love the Jesus who came to earth, took on a body. God got a bod, everybody. He came to earth, and he had tear ducts, and he used them because he loves people like you and like me, and he stands with us in our moments of grief. I said I'm from Northern Ireland. We also call it Ulster, and there was an Ulsterman, you may have heard of his name, was C.S. Lewis, famous of the Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and an incredible guy, a Christian apologist. And when he was younger, he looked at the world of pain and thought that from his Oxford University office that he could write a book on this. And he wrote The Problem of Pain, and he proudly put his name on it. And he told the world from a theoretical point of view, this is what pain is about. But years later, when he lost his wife, Joy Davidman, he wrote a different book, and it was called A Grief Observed. And this time he used a pseudonym because he was in a lot of agony. And he said, I wrote that before, but now having gone through it, I'm seeing it in a completely different way. And this is what he said. Speaking of a hurtful life, he said of his loss of his wife, her absence is like the sky spread over everything. And we stand today with people, and their whole lives have been changed. But the great news is, and it is good news, there is a God who is not distant from us in our pain and in our grief. He stands with us, and he understands it. But finally, and I think this is the most important thing, there's always hope-filled lives. While there is grief today, there is always hope tomorrow, always hope. Hurt is what we carry in our onward journey of hope. We can never just dismiss it, but hope leads us on. Hurt doesn't drive our future. I was speaking with Dawn and Kim in the backyard, and I shared this with our church at the weekend, and I told them that I'd be saying this today. Dawn said something very, very profound, very profound. And this was the really interesting thing that Isabel and I, we went to encourage them, but they ended up encouraging us. And it just felt wrong in that sense. But Dawn, he said these words. He said, I'm choosing not to think about what I'm not going to get to do with Brian. I can't go there, he said. But I'm choosing to think about all the things that I got to do with Brian. That's what keeps my heart alive. Everybody, that's great wisdom right there. That's incredible wisdom. That's the voice of hope that's speaking into tragedy. And hope for me is not just a merely temporal thing, but hope, according to the scriptures, is an eternal thing. That's why Jesus spoke these words, and also the Apostle Paul said this, if only for this life we have hope in Christ, well, we're to be pitied more than all men. But he said this, that the grave is not the last word, that we have a hope in God, and that eternity ultimately is our glorious hope. And I believe that the legacy of Deputy Brian, of B, of Ish, is that he has left hope in our hearts, hope with his parents, hope with Katie, hope with his 3 absolutely beautiful children, Prudence, Zoe, and Cash. And I would speak to everyone in blue today, everyone that serves our community. We love you. We respect you. Thank you for what you do. When you go out there every day, every night, when you put in those long shifts, quite literally, when you lay your life on the line, do you know what you're doing? You're bringing hope to us. You bring hope to our community. As you sit there today with grief in your hearts, with sadness as the family of Blue, I want to tell you that we sleep well because of you. We feel so much better. Our children live safer lives because of you. And I've no doubt if Brian were here today, he would say, please continue to answer the call, that call that's inside of you to continue to serve your community. Not just bringing justice, but continuing to bring hope. So I want to say thank you to you today for all that you do, and that hope will be Deputy Brian's absolute legacy. At this point, I'm going to invite up Sheriff D'Agostino, and he's going to come to the stage. Forgive me, I got it wrong there. That's a fancy name around Ireland right there. That's a real fancy name. You'd be coming up in a sharp suit, you know, with that name. Thank you.
That's because, Pastor, I think in heaven we're pretty much going to be speaking Italian. Oh, boy. I want to thank everyone. I want to start off by thanking everyone. The team here at Bayside, Pastor, our law enforcement partners, our families, and our community for all your support, all your prayers, your condolences, and your tears. And my wife, Janine, thank you. I really struggled with what I was going to say here today that could try to bring some comfort to all of us, to help us all while we're going through these most difficult emotions. And as for me and my emotions, I'm extremely sad for all of us, and while at the same time, very angry. And I'll get to that. What kept coming back to my mind was the few minutes that I had with Brian at the hospital before the procession. I was alone in the room with him. His body was draped with our nation's flag. And at that moment, that time to me was the most solemn and important time to begin this journey that we're all on and will be on forever. I placed my hands on that flag and on his chest, and I told him 3 things. Thank you. We got this, and your sacrifice will not be in vain. First, thank you, Brian. Thank you for your heroic and selfless service to our community and to your brothers and sisters. Thank you for giving yourself to us for the time that we had you. Thank you for being the warrior you were and for running toward the fray while the sheep run away. Thank you for serving our communities with professionalism, honor, valor, and compassion, always respecting our mission, vision, and constitutions. Thank you for cashing that rhetorical blank check that all of us in this noble and honorable profession carry with us from the time we sign up for its calling. And it is a calling. Thank you for being a fine son, brother, husband, father, and friend, one that will be remembered in our hearts and souls forever. Second, we got this. Brian, we will continue to serve your community with the same passion you did, perhaps even more, because we're now serving it for you, always striving to set your fine example and make you proud. Brian, I promise you, we got your family. Dawn and Kim, Brenda and the rest. We can't bring your boy back. But we can and will honor his legacy by serving as he served, with the same compassion, benevolent heart, and honor. Katie, we're here for you. From this day forward, we can't replace Brian, but any need you have, any shoulder you want to shed a tear on, we'll be here. Prudence, Zoe, and Cash, I know at this time it's hard for you to understand, but we got you too. Your daddy is a hero that all of us here and all those to come will remember as a hero. And as you grow up, all the heroes here today will be there for you. And finally, Brian, your death will not be in vain. Earlier I mentioned I'm angry, and I'm sure many, if not most, possibly all, here today are angry, very angry. Brian, I promise you we will all turn this anger into action. I pray this solemn occasion starts with an uproar for the iniquities facing our brothers and sisters in our communities. I pray this starts a conversation wherein our supposed leaders listen to us, Brian's voice, all the warriors and the experts in our field, instead of gang members, felons, and all those who don't have a clue what we deal with. That they listen to us for direction on what we need to keep our communities safe. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to fix this for Brian and the 47 other California officers and deputies killed in the line of duty in the last 5 years in this state. Let's all speak up for Brian and his memory so that not another one of us falls, so that we don't have to return to this place with anger in our hearts. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to have known Brian. I'm honored to know his family, and we're honored to be experiencing the outpouring of support from our community for us, for Brian and his family. To my EDSO, family and team, I want to thank you. And I want you to know that I'm prouder than I have ever been of all of you. Brian, we thank you for your service and we salute you. We all love you. We will all miss you. You will be honored forever, and you will never, ever be forgotten. Rest in peace, brother.
Hello, is there anybody in there? just not if you can hear me. Is there anyone home? Come on now, I hear you feeling down. Well, I can ease your pain, get you on your feet again. Relax, I need some information first, just the basic facts. Can you show me where it hurts?
One pill makes you larger, and one pill makes you small, and the ones that mother gives you don't do anything at all. Go ask Alice when she's 10 feet tall. And if you go chasing rabbits, and you know you're going to fall, tell 'em a hookah smoking caterpillar has given you the call. Call Alice when she was just small. When the man on the chessboard get up and tell you where to go, and you've just had some kind of mushroom, and your mind is moving low, go ask Alice, I think she'll know. When logic and proportion have fallen slowly dead, and the white knight is talking backwards, and the red queen's off with her head, remember what the Dormouse said.
It's amazing how you can speak right to my heart. Without saying a word, you can light up the dark. Try as I may, I could never explain what I hear when you don't say a thing. The smile on your face lets me know that you need me. There's a truth in your eyes saying you never leave me. The touch of your hand says you catch me if ever I fall. You say it best when you say nothing at all.
He works hard to give her all he thinks she wants. A 3-car garage, her own credit cards. He pulls in late to wake her up with a kiss goodnight. If he could only read her mind, she'd say Buy me a rose, call me from work, open a door for me, what would it hurt? Show me you love me by the look in your eyes. These are the little things I need the most in my life. Now the days have grown to years of feeling all alone. She can't help but wonder what she's doing wrong. 'Cause lately she'd try anything to turn his head. Would it make a difference if she'd say, buy me a rose, call me from work, open a door for me, what would it hurt? Show me you love me by the look in your eyes. These are the little things I need the most in my life. And the more that he lives, the less that he tries to show her the love that he holds inside. And the more that she gives, the more that he sees. This is a story of you and me. So I bought you a rose on the way home from work, to open the door to a heart that I hurt. And I hope you notice this look in my eyes, 'cause I'm gonna make things right for the rest of your life. Rest of your life. And I'm gonna hold you tonight. Do all those little things for the rest of your life.
Tour was up in the middle of June. She was planning a welcome home barbecue, green bean casserole, grandma's recipe. There was a knock on the door around 2 o'clock. 2 uniforms and her heart stopped. Yellow ribbon round an oak tree, blowing in the breeze. Here's to the ones that didn't make it back home, the ones we ain't seen in so long. The hold up a beer was a wish they were here, was not forgotten but gone. They're in a better place up there, but they sure left a hole down here. We just go on living and go on missing the ones that didn't make it back home. The whole town shut down, the whole town showed up, sang Amazing Grace, watched a slideshow of his 22 years. There was laughs and there was tears, and that preacher talked about sacrifice and traffic stop for them Cadillac lights. Johnny sold beer half price that night, and everybody raised them high, singing, here's to the ones that didn't make it back home, the ones we ain't seen in so long. The hold up a beer was a wish they were here, was not forgotten but gone. They're in a better place up there, but they sure left a hole down here. We just go on living and go on missing the ones that didn't make it back home. Back to that front porch, back through that front door, to the life they were fighting for. Ones
attention units. Refer to copy of final 1010 call for Deputy Brian Ishmael. Badge number David 1689. David 1689 Central. David 1689 Central. Deputy Brian Ishmael Central. No response from David 1689. Today we mourn with heavy hearts, for we have lost a dear friend, husband, father, son, brother, uncle, and proud Deputy Sheriff. David 1689, Deputy Brian Ishmael, you have represented everything that makes law enforcement great. Your commitment and dedication to duty was evident every day you put on your uniform. You made an eternal impact on your fellow employees and the people that you have served. Attention all units. Central shows David 1689, Deputy Brian Ishmael, 1010 for the final time. Deputy Brian Ishmael, Eldred County Sheriff's Office. End of watch, Wednesday, October 23rd, 2019. May you rest in peace. We have to watch from here.
Thank you so much for coming today. And at this point, I'm going to ask all law enforcement to file outside, and could family remain here in the worship center. Thank you.